to bring it up first because I mean, oh well, yeah, I remember like I didn't want to bring it up like right off the bat. Like we just walking in the door of my apartment, and so I kind of just I'm just standing there and he's sitting on the couch, and so I sit next to him and I'm just like, so I was like about that, like what's going on or whatever. And so he was like, I know what you're thinking. He was like, I had told you that me and her had broke up, and he did. He told me that they had, broken up or whatever. This was like when he came to my apartment, to speak to me for the first time. He was like, keep in mind I had not seen him in like 3 months. So he was like, he told me he was like him and the girl, they had broken up or something went on. I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't buy too much into it or anything like that. I just was like, okay or whatever. Just only thinking of myself. But he was like, I know what you're thinking. He was like, we were not sleeping together. He was like, we were not together. He was like, I know I told you that we had broken up or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, and I said, you told me you stayed with, your homeboy or whatever. And then he was like, and that's half true. He lied and he was like, the boy, his homeboy, it was his homeboy, that she's his homeboy's sister. But to my knowledge, like I said, I don't know her like, that well. I don't know her family history or her family tree. But to my knowledge, I've never known her to have a brother, or whatever. And I mean, I never knew where she stayed at. He never even mentioned who his homeboy was, or anything like that. So I just didn't think to have to check into, all of that or whatever. Just, naive, not thinking. So, yeah, that was that. He just was like, they weren't together or whatever. And I was like, you don't think that I should have known that, you would stand with her? I was like, do you know how that made me look, pulling up to her house and coming to get you? I said, that made me look like, I'm for mess. And I'm not. I don't go for mess, It makes me look like I've been there all the while when really and truly I wasn't. I just knew that it did not look good. I didn't even really have a good feeling about this. And so I remember like telling him like, I don't know if you're going to be able to stay here. And I was like, I said, the only way that you'll be able to stay here is if we talk to my parents and have a sit down with my parents. Even though I know that it was my house and I pay my own bills, but something just didn't feel right with letting him stay there and like I don't get my parents, permission, their blessing, for it or whatever. So he was like, okay, cool. He was like, we can sit down and we can talk to your parents, or whatever about it. So the time came and that's what we did. And so it was official. I was now living with my first boyfriend because, to be honest, my child's father really and truly was my first relationship. He was my first boyfriend. So now I'm staying in my first apartment with my man that I had gotten from someone else's house. And at the time I remember like laying in bed, just feeling guilty about it, whatever. But I never was the type to get on the internet and be like, oh, I did this, I took him and da-da-da. So some girls do stuff like that because keep in mind, like when this happened, I did see like, like subliminal posts, that she would, say about me on her post. This was no longer like on her story, and maybe I would have known that he was staying with her if I had still been watching her stories. But like I said, when I saw them together, it made me feel some type of way. So I was just like, I just no longer want to, watch her stories anymore if I'm gonna get over him and I'm gonna move on with my life. So I stopped watching her stories. And so, yeah, but she was like doing like, like little slick posts that was, directed towards me. And I remember thinking like, I'm not that type of girl or whatever. And I'm not the type to even, like I said, go for mess. I never got on the internet and, addressed her or, tried to make it this big thing because I knew deep down inside that I'm not going to say it was wrong, but I felt like it was wrong. Like, when I saw her putting his stuff outside that apartment, I should have just left him there. But me just, not even really thinking, just being selfish, only worried about me, or whatever, because I knew at this point, like, me and him, we was together before, but then he broke up with me, and that, left me heartbroken because I had already developed, like, strong feelings for him. Like, I really, really, really liked him, and I remember, like, while being on our break, well, not break, but while being in between that time, I remember, like, like, really missing him and just, being sad. Like, I just wasn't the same, because, like I said, I really felt for him. Like, I really liked him or whatever. And so once he came back into the picture, of course, I was real I was very head ass for him, or whatever. And so I was, happy that he was back, but I didn't think to check, the circumstances. He's back, but up under what circumstances? I didn't think to check that because, like I said, I just was only thinking about me, and I knew that I had developed, like, strong feelings for him, and I liked him. I didn't think anything about, that it could have been somebody else, and the whole time that there was somebody else or whatever. And once I found out, it was pretty much too late, because you're kicking his stuff out the door and he's in the car with me and we're going back to my place. I didn't have time to process everything at the time, but I knew deep down inside that it was not the right way. Like, this was not done the right way, because, like, what they say, the way you get them is how you lose them, but it wasn't so much of, like, how I got them, because I can't say that was, like, my soul, because some people are, like, literally take a man from a girl's house with all the wrong intentions, like, oh, I took her man, I took my man back, I was not thinking anything like this. I'm young, I'm dumb, I'm naive. It was my first boyfriend, and I would say young because, like I said, I was a late bloomer. I was a late bloomer. I didn't lose my virginity until I was like 21, 22, somewhere up in there, or whatever. Shortly after I lost my virginity, a year later, I met my baby daddy, or whatever, something like that, or whatever. So, I'm just only thinking about me and my feelings. Like, I like him. I like him. So, I took him back because I liked him. It was nothing about, I took him back because he's my man. I took him back because I liked him. And he just basically got in my head. Like, he was like, he didn't have nowhere else to go. This, that, and the third. He couldn't stay with he didn't want to stay with his sister because his sister was staying with her boyfriend at the time. And so I understood that. But anyway, like I said, the time came, we talked to my parents or whatever, and boom, I'm standing in this place with a man, and it's crazy. And I remember having trouble, like, trying to process it. I remember, like, feeling guilty for, how he ended up at the place. He came from another female's house and moved in with me. That bothered me a lot. I should have, addressed that with him, and I should have made him move out, but I didn't. That's my fault. That's my fault. And this is the God honest truth. Like, if I could talk to that girl, right now to this day, I would tell her, like, I'm sorry, because I don't know, how she felt at the time or whatever. And I remember, like, looking at, some of her posts, and things like that. Like, she was more angry than hurt, if it makes sense. Like, because I can't say she was a messy girl, but she hung around girls that are messy, so it was kind of like, they the type cry, my man this and my man that and da 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 da, but I'm the opposite of that. I was never, I'm not like that. But if I can talk to her right now, I would really just tell her, like, I apologize, and that even though it looked one way, it was never like that, if it makes sense, And I remember, like, afterwards, just thinking to myself, like, wanting to have a conversation with her and let her know, like, what would I have said to this girl at this point? I don't know, but I just wanted her to know, like, it wasn't, I'm not the type, like, oh, I took your man. I just was only getting what I wanted. Like, I'm used to getting, like, having my way, and so It's just I was only thinking one way, and that was just, I liked him. So I took him back. Not like take him from her, but he came and, I let him back into my life. And I didn't think about the other situation until the situation was facing me right there at the door, or whatever. But so much for that, because I'm paying for it, That's why I said sometimes I feel like me losing my baby is my karma, because I ignored a lot of red flags and I kept proceeding on. So we continued to live together or whatever, and I remember like not even a month in, I remember having like a girls' night with my cousins. And I'm sorry if I'm all over the place, y'all, but I remember like having a girls' night with my cousin, and he was at work or whatever. And I remember telling them like, y'all, I don't know about this, because they asked me, how was I enjoying it, being living with my boyfriend now. And so I told him, I said, it has its days. And I basically told him, like, I don't know about this anymore, like, because I was feeling some anxiety and I was feeling smothered, by his presence. Like, I didn't like it no more. Like, some nights I would wake up and I would look in the bed, and just to see him there, like, it creeped me out. Like, I just felt smothered. Like, it was like, this is real. I'm grown now. I'm in my own place. I'm laid up with a man in my bed. Like, this is just too grown for me, or whatever. So it was like, just give it some time. It's different. You'll just have to adjust. And so that's what I did. I gave it some time, and over time, I made myself be okay with it, because I don't think I ever really just fully just was okay with it or whatever. There was always this one thing in the back of my mind. And I feel like really and truly that was the Holy Spirit, like telling me like, girl, you need to get out of here. But I didn't. I continued on, and through him staying with me or whatever, like we split the bills or whatever. Things was good in the beginning. I don't even know how long we even really stayed in that apartment and how long we stayed together or whatever. But I just know like somewhere it started going wrong. Like he stopped sleeping in the bed with me and he started sleeping on the couch or whatever. I noticed like communication just got really slack, or whatever. I can remember being on social media some days just scrolling, and I never was the type to follow him on social media, or like we weren't friends on social media, but one day something was just like, check his page. And so I checked his page, and that's when things just didn't really look like they were adding up. Like we were together in a relationship, but everything about his Facebook page screamed single. And I look back at times, I can even see like during I would guess like supposedly the time that, him and the girl was together, it was still the same. He be in relationships outside of social media, but on social media, he's single or whatever. Not that it made a difference whether he was like that with her or me. It really didn't matter. But I started noticing like, me and him, we was in a relationship, but his Facebook page screamed he was single, or whatever. And I remember mentioning it to him, and he was just like, it's just social media, don't trip. It's not real. Social media is not a real place or whatever. And so I remember just, letting it blow over, because again, I'm so head ass over him. It was horrible. I ignored a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have, aka red flags. I ignored it. I kept going on and going on and going on, and I remember like really, I didn't experience any physical abuse because he never put his hands on me or whatever, but emotionally I suffered a lot of abuse, because it's like I started realizing at the time I didn't even know what this was, but I was dating a narcissist, and I didn't know it. I couldn't really put my hands on why he was just like, so hot and cold, whatever. Like I couldn't really put my hands on it or whatever. And I also didn't really have proof, that he was talking to, you know, like other girls or whatever thing. So I kind of just, you know, had to be quiet until like one day it happened. I found out I was pregnant. I found out I was pregnant with Carly. And it's like when I found out I was pregnant with Carly, that's when all the skeletons came out of the closet. That's when all the skeletons came out of the closet, y'all. I remember like shortly after finding out I was pregnant or whatever, a friend of mine came to the house, and I just found it kind of strange because she never really just, you know, popped up or whatever, but she came and she showed me a video. Keep in mind, this particular night, he wanted to use my car, and I let him use my car, something that I never do. I remember like not really even want to give him my keys, but he said he had to go pick his brother up because his brother was just getting off the road because his brother does drive trucks. So I just was like, okay. And then I prayed about it and I gave him the keys. Please tell me, like I said, an hour later, a friend of mine popped up to the house, and so she had this video. And on the video, y'all, and I feel so stupid even talking about this, but when you know better, you do better. I look at the phone. It's a video of you know who at the girl's apartment that he moved out of. He's back at the apartment. He drove there in my car, y'all. I instantly got sick. I got sick and I started spazzing out. I started freaking out. Like, I started calling his phone like back to back. You know, he wasn't answering or anything like that. But the video, he was on the video with the girl or whatever. And I guess she posted on her story. I don't know. My friend was the one who showed me the video. But he was doing the most disgusting thing ever. He was licking her toes. And she was recording it. I got sick instantly, y'all. I got sick instantly. You know what? I was not even pregnant yet. I had not found out I was pregnant yet or whatever. But I got sick instantly. I just could not believe my eyes or whatever. So I made my friend leave because it was about to get ugly. I kept calling him and kept calling him and kept calling him. So eventually he just showed up back home, you know, whatever. And we had it out the big way, you know. And so that kind of pretty much just ended us. And so I told him he had to leave. I told him I'm giving you to, I don't know when I had told him, but I told him by a certain amount of time he had to leave my place or whatever. And that was that or whatever. And so I want to say maybe we went 2 days, you know, just kind of being like on the rocks, not speaking to each other because of that situation or whatever. And so I go out one night with my friends, well, with my cousin them, because my cousin had came down from Arizona. And so when she gets here, we all go out on like a little cousin day, and we go out that night. I go out, I get tore up, I get drunk, you know, I get high, you know, and stuff like that. And so I remember that night just, you know, not feeling well at all. I remember like a pinching feeling like down below, and it felt heavy, and I felt like that was strange because I remember when I was taking like some of the shots, I kept throwing up, but I'm just like, maybe I gotta get back in the swing and stuff, so I just kept taking shots and stuff like that or whatever. So I go home, I'm drunk, he's laying on the couch. I go back to my room like always, because at that point, you know, like I said, he was sleeping on the couch, I slept in my bed, you know, whatever like that. We was basically roommates at that point. So I'm laying down, I go to sleep or whatever. I wake up in the morning, he's already gone to work or whatever. How he got to work, I don't know. But I wake up and I go lay in the living room or whatever because I'm hungover, I'm not feeling well. And then I get like this sharp pain in my stomach. I get up and I go to the bathroom, there is dark red blood in my underwear. I'm not knowing what to think at this point. But it was really implantation bleeding. I was pregnant with Carly. I found out I was pregnant after, you know, seeing that video, you know, that disturbing video. Then I found out I'm pregnant. Like, wow. I want him to leave, but now I'm pregnant. Wow. Wow. Or whatever. So I remember telling him, and like inside I was like, I was kind of happy. I was kind of happy. The thing is about this is we were trying for a baby. He was trying for a baby. We were trying for a baby. But the whole time I was taking birth control, y'all. Because I knew deep down inside, like, I'm not ready for a baby. Like, you know, that's what I'm thinking. A baby is crazy. I never thought about me, a mother or whatever, but somehow something went wrong. I don't know. And I ended up being pregnant. I ended up getting pregnant or whatever. And so I told him, and I was kind of happy, you know, because I'm just like, this is different. And I'm happy because I'm just like, he has always wanted a baby. So at least somehow I'm making him happy. I'm having his child, I'm carrying his baby or whatever. And so I tell him I'm pregnant, and like, y'all, his face lit up. His face lit up. For the sake of time, I'm gonna skip how it all happened. Like, you know, I was in the bathroom taking a test. He was the one that bought the test or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, his face lit up when I told him I was pregnant. He called his mama immediately. He was like, I couldn't hear what he said, but I heard his mama saying, how do you know it's yours? And that right there was another red flag. I'm just like, she was like, how do you know it's yours this time? I'm like, this time. So obviously homeboy had been trying like for so long with, you know, or whatever, but it happened with me or whatever. And so he was like, cuz mama, I know. He was like, I just know this time. Sorry, I had to clear more space off again, but I promise y'all I'm wrapping it up. But he was like, mama, trust me. He was like, I just know this time or whatever. And so that was that. He got the phone from with his mama or whatever. And I remember, like, you know, thinking to myself, like, I still have business I gotta take care of. Like, I'm pregnant, but that still does not stop the fact that, you know, you disrespected me. You know, I didn't want to give you my keys that night. I never give you my car. I even told you why, like, you know, why I would never let you get my car because of that, you know, particular thing. And that's what I felt like, you know, guys do or whatever. And I just can't run that risk. But one time I just decided to, you know, just like, you know, help out. I was like, okay, maybe he want to do something like that. I don't know. And you did exactly what I knew for guys to do when you give them your vehicle or whatever. So I remember, like, after he got the phone from with his mama, I remember, like, still telling him, like, I'm pregnant, but you still have to go home. You still gotta go back home with your mama. And I remember him telling me, like, you know, he didn't want to leave me because he was like, you know, I'm pregnant or whatever. And I was like, I know. I was like, I get it. I was like, I know this isn't the best situation for us. I was like, but you still gotta go back home. You know, just trying to, not even trying, but just, you know, really like stand on business. Like, it still does not matter. Like, you disrespected me. I was like, you gotta go home. You're going home or whatever. And so the time date that I had set for him to leave is still like some couple of days, you know, like left or whatever. So of course he did not leave, like, you know, right away. And it's so crazy because within the time frame of, you know, all of that happening, my sister comes to the house one day. And that was strange because my sister never really came to my house. My sister had bad news. Y'all, my sister ended up telling me that some girl called her. A girl. Well, I'm not going to say some girl, because I know this girl. It was not the girl from the apartment. This was a different girl that I didn't know anything. I didn't know she was in the picture. But my sister ended up telling me, you know, like, that basically the girl had been in my house. She had been in my house. And I remember that exact time, and that she may have, you know, he may have invited her, you know, into our home, because I was in Atlanta with my family taking the kids on a little trip to go to the aquarium. And I remember around that time, you know, being gone or whatever. And I can, like, it came back to me. I remember one time he was asking me, asking did I know what time I would be home, and me just being stupid, I'm not thinking nothing about it. You trying to check what time I'll be home so you could bring somebody else into my house. So that you could bring someone into my house, or whatever, but I didn't think anything about it, just really not even thinking that he would do anything like that or whatever. But like I said, after finding out I was pregnant, a couple of days, after that, my sister comes to the house and she tells me, this girl, she's describing my bedroom perfectly. So not only did you bring a female into my apartment, but you slept with her in my bed. Keep in mind, y'all, I'm pregnant at this time, so it was a lot of emotions I was feeling. And I remember he was in the living room asleep. My sister told me while we was in the kitchen, because she was like, she didn't want to say it immediately in front of him. But I just remember, like, when she told me, I went in there and I woke him up. And I remember just, screaming, like, how could you do this to me? Just being really upset. And I remember the only thing that he said was, why are you doing all of this? Why are you screaming and you carrying my baby? He was like, you're upsetting the baby. Y'all, keep in mind, I found out I was pregnant at 2 weeks or whatever. So, yeah, he was like, you upsetting the baby or whatever. And I just remember, like, just, screaming and crying and stuff like that. And I was like, you gotta go. I was like, you gotta go. I was like, you gotta get out of here. I was like, I can't believe you did this to me, and stuff like that or whatever. And he couldn't even really say anything, y'all, because he knew he was wrong. He knew he was busted. He didn't think that the girl would, say anything. And I don't know, my sister said she felt like she found out I was pregnant, and that upset her. And that's when, she spoke up, about stuff, whatever. I don't know. And the kicker about this, the girl is related to my niece. Like, what is it? It's a hard life. I lived a hard knock life being with my child's father or whatever. So, yeah, at this point, it's over with. It's done. We through. So his mama comes to whoever comes and pick him up. Because I remember him calling them on the phone. And I remember in the background like, yeah, come pick him up. Tell him what you did. Tell him what you did. Tell him that you slept with somebody in my house, in my bed. Like, I remember, like, saying stuff like that, just being hurt, tears, running down my face or whatever. I remember, like, being even upset with my sister, like, screaming and telling her to leave because I just want to be by myself. Like, I just can't believe, what I'm hearing right now. I want everybody out. So my sister leaves. He's on the phone with his people. His people is on the way to come get him. My sister leaves and she comes back with my mom. Like, you brought mama into this, sister? Like, really? Like, now, even though that's family, now I'm double embarrassed. Like, I could have just took this L in private, but now family knows, my mama knows. Now, I know she probably told my dad. Like, it was crazy. But after it was all said and done and everybody was gone, I was able to just kind of like think and just, like cry and just, like let it out. It was bad, y'all. It was bad. And so, time went on. I stayed in my apartment maybe 2 months after, everything happened, but I eventually moved back home, back in with my mama. Because my mama wanted me to move home so that she could spoil me while I was pregnant or whatever, and she did just that. My mama rubbed my feet. She did everything my baby daddy was supposed to do for me. So, in between that time, I didn't really have any contact with my child's father or whatever, because I think I had him blocked from my phone. That was sign number one that I was not ready for. I was not really ready for a baby, because how can you block the person that you have a baby with? Like, that's immature. Like, y'all got a whole baby that's about to come and you don't block, and I have him blocked. I had my reasons though. I was very upset. I didn't want to talk to him. You know, I was fully prepared to do it by myself. To do motherhood by myself. So, yeah. Time went on or whatever. I didn't really have any contact with my child's father until my gender reveal. And my gender reveal is when, like, after it was all said and done, I was up there at my gender reveal. The video is actually on my page. You can see me up front, you know, pulling the balloons out of the bag. You can see that my child's father is in the back of the restaurant, you know, at a table by himself, you know, or whatever. And that was my first time, like, seeing him. And even though through all of that had went on, seeing him, I was still happy. Like, my face still, like, just, you know, lit up, because I'm just like, you know, I really like him. This is my baby daddy. You know, it was just, you know, good seeing him. And for a split second, I did, you know, start scrolling down memory lane, you know, whatever. And I remember, like, after the gender reveal being over with, instead of him, like, coming and talking to me, that's how I knew, like, you know, he was immature. I can't really say so much of I was immature, but I was going off a lot of my emotions though. But he was definitely, like, you know, young. He was young or whatever. And so I remember, like, getting a text on my phone from his sister, because he is still blocked. I still had contact with his sister and his mother or whatever, so they knew what was going on or whatever. I just didn't want to talk to him or whatever. But I remember getting a text from his sister's phone, and she was like, such and such said, can you unblock him? And so I was just like, you know, I said, okay. So I unblocked him. And so he's texting me, he was like, he wants his family back. He wants his family back. Y'all, I fell for that. Oh my. I fell for it. He said he wanted his family back. So we ended up getting back together. But it didn't last long. Maybe like 2 weeks maybe, before, like, I called it quits, because he did something else, you know. And I just felt like, you know, you don't care about me. I'm carrying your child, and you're steadily, like, trying to hurt me. This is where I'm most vulnerable, and my emotions are just, like, running rampant, and you don't care. So I broke it off with him. I remember sending him a text, and I just like, this isn't gonna work. I tried, I'm sorry, but this isn't gonna work. And I basically let him know, like, I didn't want any more communication with him, and that I just had to focus on growing our child and getting her here healthy and safe. And so I blocked him, but I told him, you know, you can always check on me through your mother, like, because I'll be letting your mother, you know what's going on. I'll be letting your mother know about doctor's appointments. You know, if you want to come to doctor's appointments, you can, you know, whatever. But I just knew that he wouldn't, because my doctor's was in my city and he stayed in another city, which is only 30 minutes away, but at this time he didn't even have a car or whatever. So I just knew that was out of the question or whatever. So I went my entire pregnancy just, you know, like, by myself. I guess you could say it was my choice to go by myself, but to be honest, even if I had not blocked him or whatever, I still don't even really think that he would have stepped up and been, you know, there for me during my pregnancy. Like, I feel like he probably every now and then, an occasional, what you doing, how you doing, you know, like stuff like that. He just was not capable of being, you know, I can't really explain it. But, yeah, I went my entire pregnancy by myself. I had him blocked, and, like, to this day, I beat myself up about it. Like, because I just feel like if I had not, maybe my baby would have been here. If I had just proven to God that, you know, I'm mature and that I can handle this situation, you know, the best way possible. Like, yeah, me and him, we've had our ups and downs, you know, and stuff like that. But allow him to be there for his child, which it was gonna be that way anyway. I just didn't want any contact with him while I was pregnant. I never had any intentions on keeping him away from his child. Like, once I birthed my baby, once I had my baby, our baby, I was going to allow him to step up and be a father if he wanted to. I never had any intentions on just like Xing him out the picture, like not wanting him to do anything with his daughter or whatever. I never, felt like that. I just wanted to focus on being stress-free and just getting our daughter here safe, and so much for that or whatever. So like I said, I kept his mama up on what was going on with me or whatever. She knew everything. She would always report to him. Let him know, such and such, this, that, and the third. There were times throughout my pregnancy I would unblock him, and we would talk or whatever. Then I just, block him again, emotions running crazy, blah, 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 or whatever. So towards the ending of my pregnancy is when I unblocked him, and I just was like, we can have this communication. I remember texting him, I was like, are you ready? It's about time, or whatever. I was like, any day now. And I remember we was talking, and stuff like that. We was talking about baby names, but I had already had her name planned out or whatever. And so, that was it. And so the time came for me to have her. I won't go into, everything that happened because there's already a story on, the whole process of how I found out, she did not make it or whatever. But I had my baby. And of course, my baby died. Like, our daughter did not make it. Out of all the stuff that was going on, out of all the stuff that I went through, I felt like I deserved my daughter. Like, that's how I was thinking. Like, I went through all of this, but at least I got to have my daughter out of all of this. At least, the least. But I did it. And there was so many emotions going on at that time, like after I found out she did not make it, because I was harassed my entire pregnancy. I was. Several different text messages from phone numbers that I don't know or whatever. But I remember thinking, in the days of after her, after burying her, I remember like beating myself up really bad. And I remember like in my mind like, karma. It hit me. I felt like losing my daughter was my karma, because God told me to leave him alone. God showed me so many red flags, and I ignored all of them. I ignored all of them, and then I became pregnant. And when I got pregnant, everything came out. This man moved from out of one girl's house and moved into the home with me. And because of that, even though it was not like that, but because of what it seemed like, karma don't miss nobody. So I feel like me losing my daughter, like sometimes I do feel like that. And I remember I told this lady, that I felt like that, and I remember she told me, she was like, don't feel like that. She was like, this is not your karma. She said, this is not your karma. This is not your karma. She was like, everything happens for a reason. She was like, you may not can't see it right now. She was like, everything happens for a reason. She was like, it may not look good right now, but she was like, you got off free. And she was like, I know that's the last one you want to think about it. But she was like, look at all that he put you through, and this, that, and the third. And she was like, you got off free. And of course at the time I could not see it that way, because I'm just like, I just lost my baby. I waited a full 9 months for this. Like, I was so ready for her. I pulled up with so much, at least I could have kept my baby. So I was not really looking at it from, that standpoint. But that lady, she was right. Everything does happen for a reason. And to a certain extent, I still feel like, it was my karma. I feel like he had a lot of karma built up, and because I was attached to him, I feel like some of his karma rolled over onto me. I was carrying his baby, and we lose my first child and his first child. I lost that baby. And then it happened in the most, I can't say unexpected, but like traumatic. It was very traumatic. I think I probably would have been able to process a little better if I had lost her like while she was in the womb or something like that. I mean, I did, but like I'm guessing like maybe like a miscarriage. Like I went the whole way. And I just remember after having her, like that thought hit me. I was like, this is my karma. I thought about when I should have left him and I didn't. I thought about when I picked him up from that girl's house and I should have just left him there. I thought about all of that. And I think the only reason why I can like really process it now, because I think it really would have bust my behind. Like if I was the type of female like, yeah, this is my man, this, that, or third, he gonna be with me forever. I took him. I feel like if I would have had that type of mindset, that this really and truly would have bust my, my ass. But because that was never my intentions, and I was just only just, being selfish and worried about me. I liked him. Me. I didn't think about how that girl felt. I just thought about me. So. And that's just, how it played out. I remember I just kept on thinking about, like, this is my karma. If I had just, like, from that day when he wanted to move in, if I had just said no, none of this would have ever happened. And like sometimes it still kind of haunts me, but like I said, I feel like if I would have had that type of attitude, it would have really just, bust my behind. But because I didn't, and like I said, I was only just worried about me, I feel like I was humble enough to, like even speak about this, because I remember I told several people, and I remember like thinking on down the line, like I wanted to do a testimony video, like just, telling young girls, guys are our biggest downfall, But I remember, thinking like, wanting to do a video like that, one day. And so I guess this is kind of like partially that type of video. But, yeah, I feel like it did not bust my behind because I was not conceited. Like, I was not cocky. I went through the relationship like with conviction, knowing that I was wrong. And not even wrong, but just knowing like this was not the best, situation. So I feel like I was able to come out and just, be humble and, come to God and confess where I feel like, I went wrong. So yeah. Yeah. I still, sometimes I feel like that, like, I think about it all the time, like, if I had just, left him that day at that house and let him figure himself out, would I still be in this? I think about, like, if I had not blocked him from my phone, would my baby have made it? Like, if I had approved to God, like, I'm mature, I can handle this situation, even though it's not the best, I can still co-parent with him, like, I can do this, God. Like, if I had just proved myself during that period of my time, like, what my baby had made it. Like, did God see that I couldn't navigate this. Like, did he see that I'm not mature enough to be able to be in a situation like this? And then he just felt like, you know, like, no, I'm just going to take this one back. Like, you know, I don't know. But everything truly does happen for a reason. Everything truly does happen for a reason. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be done with the video until I feel like I want to talk about, you know, this again. But would y'all believe that even though, and I'm human, y'all, I'm human. And now that I've matured, like, even more, and I've healed myself, I no longer look at, like, my child's father as, like, this monster person that's trying to hurt me and he's trying to do it on purpose. I look at him as his own self, somebody that needs to do some healing. Like, I've forgiven him, you know, and stuff like that. He's my child's father. I still have a lot of love for him. I'm not in love with him, but I still have a lot of love, you know, for him. And like I said, this may be a little crazy, but I'm human. Even after all of that has gone on between me and him, I still have a lot of feelings, like, for my child's father. I do. And I pray a lot, like, you know, for the bond to just be severed, to just break the tie. Because I know that he does not mean me any good, and that's just not my person. That's not who God has. That's not who God wants for me. He's not my person. So I'm just trying to, you know. And I beat myself up a lot about that, because I'm just like, how could you be so stupid? Like, but I'm done. This is the end of this video, y'all. I pray that you guys have, that you guys like this video. I pray that it was interesting to you. I also pray that this video will reach the people that it needs to reach in the right time. And, yeah, so see you later, y'all.